After starting the season 18-21 under new head coach Ime Udoka, there was a lot of negative talk about the Boston Celtics. Their supporting cast sucked, their offense was still stagnant, Jaylen Brown and Jayson Tatum couldn't pass, and one or both of them needed to be traded. Well, 34 games later, and the Celtics have the second best record in the NBA over that period of time, just behind the Suns, and ironically, it was actually the New Year's Eve win against Phoenix that was the turning point in their season, according to Al Horford. But over these last 34 games, they have the clear best net rating at an absurd 13.3, and they have turned into the best defense in the NBA, routinely keeping elite offenses like the Hawks, Grizzlies, and Nuggets well below their season average. Oh, and of course, that absolute smashing of the Philadelphia 76ers. And this begs the question, how have the Celtics gone from average to great? And is this defense and all-around play sustainable? Now, just before I get into that, if you could drop a like on the video, that would be much appreciated. Helps out a ton. Subscribe to the channel if you are new as well, that would also be much appreciated. But before we talk about the defense of Boston, I think it's important to note that an equally huge part of their turnaround in form has been on the other side of the floor. And it must feel good for Boston to feel vindicated in what they and everyone else has been talking about, because their ball movement has drastically improved this season, and even from the start of the season to now, they've gone from an assist percentage of 23rd through the first 39 games to now 9th in the NBA, and they are doing it through committee. This is not through one particular player, but one player that I do want to highlight is Jayson Tatum. He might not be shooting his best from three, but every other aspect of his play has been incredibly good. We all know what Tatum can do as a scorer. He's generally lethal from all three levels. He can use his size and athleticism to get downhill. He has the ability to play off the ball with his catch and shoot ability, alongside some intelligence as a cutter. And then we all know he's very, very capable of scoring in isolation situations. But as I alluded to, it's not the scoring that has impressed me. It's most definitely his improved playmaking and decision making. From an assist standpoint, the numbers are pretty similar, but Tatum, like everyone else on Boston, just seems to be making those decisions to pass the ball a fraction quicker and with just a fraction more intelligence. I like this play right here. Tatum comes off a Robert Williams screen, and if you were to pause it right here, you might think he's about to lob it upstairs to the Time Lord for a dunk, which he's done at times this season, but instead, he looks off the corner defender in Gallinari before finding the open Horford for three. Or how about this one on his now teammate Derek White, who I'll touch on a little bit later. Tatum gets the ball in the post and immediately recognizes the help side double from Keldon Johnson, so he spears the pass out to the corner shooter for an open three. I think it's great to see that Tatum has taken on the responsibility of improving himself as a playmaker and as a passer, along with the obvious scoring ability. I mean, this is someone who's 6'9" or 6'10", who is way too quick and shifty for taller defenders, and he's also too big for smaller defenders, which is what's going to make him someone who's averaging 25 to 30 points a game in his sleep for the next decade. But as a passer, along with the consistent effort and defensive intensity he brings, that is what is going to take his game to the next level, alongside the likes of Luka Doncic and the other young stars in the league. Now overall, you could go through this whole Celtics roster and see some pretty big improvements in their playmaking, evidenced by the fact their assist rate has gone from 27th last year to 14th this season, and even better recently, as I mentioned. I mean, you've had the likes of Time Lord, who has impressed Udoka with his passing ability, showing off a really impressive ability to find cutters from the elbow or above the break. We know what Al Horford can do, along with the likes of Jaylen Brown, who has also improved, and then bringing in a guy like Derek White. But I think a guy who deserves a lot of credit for his overall offensive improvement is Marcus Smart. Constant trade rumors, constant talk about the Celtics not having a point guard, Dennis Schroeder coming in and taking some of that responsibility, yet Smart has been fantastic this season. We know what he does defensively, but offensively, his efficiency has skyrocketed over the recent stretch of games because of his willingness to get downhill, because of the quality of shots he is taking and the Celtics are creating, and then also his playmaking, which has been crucial for the Celtics with his ability to drive and kick or find the rollers in Williams or Horford. Smart might not be the most elite of passers, but he's certainly pretty damn solid, and having him alongside the other good passers is turning the Celtics into the team they are. And I think that's a perfect segue into what has made Boston so good, and that is defense. When it comes to Boston's defense, there are a few clear reasons for it being so good. For one, they don't really have a weak link. You bring in Derek White, who's been really solid on both ends, despite struggling to shoot from three, which I'll touch on a little bit later, but you have White, Smart, Tatum, Brown, and Williams, along with the likes of Horford and Grant Williams, which gives you a really solid rotation of guys who have size and versatility. But importantly, you pair that size and versatility on the perimeter with the freak athleticism and shot blocking ability of Time Lord, who's pretty much been allowed to roam around and just block shots at will in and around the paint, whilst also proving to be better than the other bigs that can't quite move their feet as well on the perimeter as Time Lord does. And just watch this play right here. This sums it up. Jokic has the ball in the post. Time Lord is kind of just floating around, just waiting on a potential cutter to find their way to the rim, and he doesn't really pick up on the pass until it touches Najee's hands, but he gets over in a fraction of a second and then uses his ridiculous athleticism to meet Najee at the rim. That fraction of a second that he can make those decisions and block shots is what is so unique about him, and is why he is one of the best shot blockers in the NBA. Overall, Boston has been incredibly impressive over the last 35 games. What initially started with a relatively easy schedule has just turned into a rampage that has involved obliterations of top teams like the Denver Nuggets, the Philadelphia 76ers, and beating the likes of Memphis, Golden State, etc. This is a team that is doing it against everyone, and looking ahead to the playoffs, yet again, having the versatility they have is going to be crucial. Just look at what they were able to do against Nikola Jokic just the other day. You had a combination of both Williamses and Al Horford causing him trouble, but then you also have a guy like Jayson Tatum, who's shown an ability to guard elite wings and guards on the perimeter, like he did against the Brooklyn Nets. Obviously, you have Marcus Smart, who's playing at an incredible level defensively, and I know people try to cancel him for diving on a ball, but that's Marcus Smart. That's the kind of play he's going to make, and that's the kind of reason he is a major factor in this defense being the clear best defense in the league, and it's a defense that is going to hold up in the playoffs. I can assure you of that. And then offensively, you have two stars in Brown and Tatum who can create their own shot at will, but have also shown an increased willingness and ability to make quicker split-second decisions when the shot isn't there to make, along with what Derek White has given their team as a guy who can handle the ball with the second unit, but also spend time with the starters as well. Every time I watch a Celtics game, I think I'm more impressed than the time before, and that was reinforced after seeing what they did against the Grizzlies, and then the Warriors, and then the Nuggets. It is win after win and impressive performance after impressive performance. Now, with that being said, I think if there were to be one clear weakness for the Celtics right now, it would be their lack of outside shooting. I think with what we've seen from Marcus Smart, Jayson Tatum, and Jaylen Brown as elevated playmakers and passers, plus the inclusion of Derek White, I have enough confidence in them handling the ball and making the right decisions down the stretch of games. But shooting-wise, the Celtics rank 20th on the year from three, and despite that improving recently, Boston need to hope that the likes of Derek White can get back to what he has been shooting like throughout his career, along with Marcus Smart and Al Horford keeping defenses honest, because I talked about the versatility on defense and how they can go with two bigs against certain teams because of what they do defensively. But if Horford is struggling from three, along with one of Smart or White, plus the non-shooting of Robert Williams, you can see how that gets troublesome very, very quickly. Now, a reason I'm still hopeful is a guy like Derek White has been able to shoot at a decent clip before in the regular season and also in the playoffs. The same can be said for Marcus Smart and Horford, and also Tatum has started to find his range recently, along with Peyton Pritchard. They've got shooting, but it's more so about the consistency of that shooting and in certain lineups whether that shooting will be good enough. That's really all I've got to say about the Boston Celtics. Their defense is legit, they are playing a better overall brand of basketball than last season, and with so many question marks over teams in the East, I think we have to consider the Celtics a very, very legitimate chance at making it out of the East.